All right, we are back here talking U.S. Open and some golf in the world here. The U.S. Open set to kick off this Thursday at the Los Angeles Country Club for the first time. Join me today to break it all down. Our golf guy, he works the PGA Tour, Dan DeMartini is here. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mike, and glad to be back talking some golf and ready to respond accordingly.
Yeah, well, we obviously have to start with the elephant in the room here, because obviously last week when we were talking here, the PGA Tour LIV deal / merger was announced pretty much out of left field. Nobody seemed to know this was coming, and there's a lot of chaos here. Like, as somebody who works there, like, what can you tell us about what this is going on with this deal? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, obviously, earlier this week there was a framework that agreement that came out, and obviously, those that were kind of in the general public, there was a lot of shock and a lot of different reactions depending on kind of where you sit within the golfing world. And I think as the dust has settled and we kind of understand the framework agreement that is out there, I think what you're seeing is that the future of golf is now no longer divided. And I think that that basically what we have read and what we have heard is very similar to what is out there in the general public. There's really not a lot of additional information at this point, and only time will tell. But I'm looking at it and saying that the future of golf is better for this. If you look at kind of what we're walking into in 2024 and beyond, this clears up a lot of the division, and people can get back to really enjoying the game of golf that they've grown up loving and watching and participating in. And it puts us just in a really open space to kind of think, okay, there's an opportunity here to really get all of the criticism and division between people within the world of golf to really kind of come together and say what is going to be the best for the fans and for the players alike. And so, we're all looking at it as this is an exciting time. And after that initial shock came through, I think we say, let's take it a week at a time, a month at a time, and look for really a bright future within the game.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously I have to ask about the pressure that Commissioner Monahan is going to be under here, because obviously when this LIV Tour formed last year, he had the whole situation where he was going on in public appearances saying how, like, you should be proud for being here. He cited the potential involvement of Saudi involvement in 9/11 here. Like, I know, like, obviously, like, he's going to have to answer that in public here, but, like, it's not great optically at the least to see, like, that stuff come out and then all of a sudden you're merging.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, Commissioner Monahan's been very open and honest. As an employee of the company that was, obviously there was no information that was given to us prior to the day of the announcement. And I think you have to look at it. If you're a smart, savvy sports business person and you understand the greater scheme of what the entire picture, there's obviously never going to be a true answer of, how this all came together other than the people that were in the room. But everybody, you can kind of do the math, right? You can kind of see what was going on, not with, in the greater scheme of the PGA Tour, along with what, the competitive landscape looked like as well. And this was inevitable. That it had to have happened because there was going to continue to be division. And this was the way to get, all of the other off the course concerns between the other competitive threats and things that were out there, consistently looking at the PGA Tour, which has been, the pinnacle of the golf professional world, for the past 35, 40 years, even longer. This was just one of those scenarios where Commissioner Monahan did what he believed was the best thing for the PGA Tour and the future of golf. And we all, support that decision, because at the end of the day, the longer that this dragged on, it was only going to cause more division and more problems. So, when an agreement comes together like this, and once again, we still don't know what the agreement will. This is a wait and see. Everybody wants to be so quick to react one way or the other or many different ways. This is something that we're going to have to just wait and understand more as time goes on. I think it's too early to judge or be critical or be supportive. I think this is just a wait and see. Let's all find out. Let's work through it. And I think he's done absolutely the best possible job given the circumstance. And we're all just in a position here where we're thinking, how do we get the game to be back in a position where people think of the professional golfing landscape in an extremely positive, futuristic look, right? We want that outlook to continue to be, this is going to bring everybody together. This is going to be the best thing to grow the game. I hate to use that phrase because everybody keeps saying it, but really there was no way to grow it if there was such division. So, but once again, he was put in a difficult position, and I think he's handled it incredibly well. And people are going to obviously quick react, but they probably don't know all the details. So I understand what the questions that are out there, but unfortunately, we just need to let this kind of go for a bit and understand more as it goes on. So looking forward to recapping and as more information comes out, and I'll be back on to talk to you when that time comes.
Yeah, this whole situation does remind me a bit of, I don't know if you're a big Hamilton guy, but the whole song, The Room Where It Happens, where nobody really knows what happened when Burr and Hamilton discussed rules for the new U.S. government here. So I just sort of feel kind of like that, where we'll never really know what happened in that room.
No, and once again, that's obviously that's part of the decision making process, and that's why we fully trust that everybody is looking out for our best interests, and we're going to give 110% of our effort to continue to put out the best product in professional golf. So regardless of how it happened or why it happened, those details don't matter as much to me. I think that everybody, no matter where you were in terms of your opinion of professional golf, I think everybody was just kind of getting tired of the division. And I think it's an exciting time now for us. So that's what we got to stick to.
Yeah, let's get to this week's event here, obviously. The U.S. Open coming up here for the first time at Los Angeles Country Club. As somebody who has never been out to California, what can you tell me about this course and what we can look forward to this week?
Yeah, let's get back into the golf stuff. LA Country Club is really interesting. For those that don't know, this is right in the heart of Los Angeles. This is Wilshire Boulevard. This is a golf course, very historic. It's been around since sometime in the 1800s. And this particular design, this course has so much flexibility. From what we've heard from the players and various people that are, part of the U.S. Open process, the golf course can play long, it can play short. It can, depending on how the U.S. Open, basically their operational team and the USGA decide to set up the tees and how much they grow the rough and protect the greens. It could play vastly different from, when you go out and play a practice round, say 6-7 months ago. So what's fascinating about this is that the true defense of the golf course, from everything that we've heard, are the greens themselves. Lots of slope. It's a different kind of grass than what a lot of the PGA Tour courses, or I would say the majority of the courses, they kind of go with I don't want to get too much into the agronomy side of things, but it's a bent grass. So they're going to roll. They're going to look beautiful on TV for sure. And, they're going to be where if you hit it, we're going to see considerable rollout. They're going to be firm. They're going to be fast. Don't expect the ball to hit and stick. From other kind of entities within the golf world, it sounds like this is I've never been out to see the course, but it sounds like this is a course where you do not necessarily need to bomb it off the tee. This is much more about your accuracy from the fairway to the green and how you approach. Doesn't sound like high lofted, draws or fades are going to be the play. Keeping the ball low and letting it run actually might work out better. There's plenty of setups out there on, depending on where they put the tee boxes, where you're looking at a lot of dog legs, hidden fairways. hidden greens, I mean. And, you know, it's more so going to be about that second and third shot instead of your actual tee shot. There was an interesting quote that from, I think it was like Max Homa a couple months ago, that talked about how basically the first hole at LA Country Club is like kind of one of the easier holes. I think it's going to be set up as a par 5. I've seen it also as a par 4 in the past, but pretty sure it's going to be a par 5. And it's like, okay, you know, basically the course is going to give you a freebie on the first one, but then the next 17 are going to be an absolute slog. So, should be nice for those that are on site to kind of see some guys get off to good starts and see who can keep the momentum. But other than that, I think that the U.S. Open always finds the USGA and the U.S. Open team, basically, they always find a way to make the course play longer, make it more challenging. You're not going to see this. The pins are not going to be in easy positions. The greens will be, as I said, extremely firm and fast. And the areas around the greens and the rough for those that miss the fairway first cut are going to be incredibly difficult. And that's just traditional of any U.S. Open that you've watched. There's never been, an easy setup really at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, U.S. Open loves to do this situation where they want to basically bring the golfers to their knees and make them really earn their score. They don't want people winning at like 10 under, 12 under. They want people winning like 4 under, saying that's a great round, race final score.
Absolutely. And it's the United States Open champion. So, you know, they've always historically, I mean, we can go back and talk about, you know, West Coast, East Coast events. It doesn't seem to matter, you know, even events that have been played, the U.S. Opens that have been played kind of, you know, central U.S., they always find a way, you know, given the course layout, to make them long and make the greens incredibly difficult. So I've been to several U.S. Opens in my lifetime, and I've watched the best golfers in the world hit their approach shots to the greens in great spots, and that ball just go bouncing right off the back past the pins. And, you know, these tabletop greens and slopes are very much to help the defensive. I mean, don't be shocked if you see the best players in the world all start, you know, 1-2 over par. Hopefully they take advantage of that first hole, but after that, I mean, I don't expect the scores to be particularly low.
Yeah, I mean, the one golf event I've been to in my life in person was a U.S. Open, and I can speak to that fact that, like, they like to make it hard. And one player who did not have it hard last year was Matt Fitzpatrick, who pulls off the big, like career, sort of, starting, putting him on the map win last year at the U.S. Open here. Like, do you think he has a shot to pull off repeat? Because not many able to repeat at this tournament.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely think he has a wonderful shot. And, you know, if you kind of look at where he's been since then, he's had some really incredible finishes. I mean, obviously he won Heritage in a playoff against Jordan Spieth just a few weeks ago. And even at Memorial, I think he was top 10 as of literally a week ago. So his game is still pretty tight. He didn't have a great showing at the PGA Championship, but he kind of had a bad first round. But I think that there's something about the U.S. Open that fits his game, because Matt Fitzpatrick is really good in that kind of mid-range area too. He's not particularly wild off the tee, and if his putter is going, I mean, there's no reason you should count him out. I think as long as he's hovering, once again, kind of in that top 20 going into the weekend, oh boy, I would not count him out. He's the kind of guy who's on that leading board. You don't want to overlook him if you've got a 1 or 2 shot lead. I mean, he can go out and easily go 5-6 under on a day and be right there with you. So I'm 100% counting him in for this one.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at some of the odds right now for the field here, and obviously the usual suspects are up the top of the projected favorites list here. I mean, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy, the top 4 in terms of odds right now here. In terms of that favorite class, who do you like the best in that group?
It's a really interesting group. You know, the easy pick once again is Scotty Scheffler, just because he's basically leading the PGA Tour in approach to green, and that's, from all reports, the most important stat going into this event is, you know, what are you doing with your irons, and how are you giving yourself a chance to get a look for birdie? And so you got to stay with the guys that are kind of the leaders that are in the top of that group. At that are Scheffler, Morikawa, and Rahm. So those are the 3 that I'm going to lean towards. I'm not counting out. I mean, Rory McIlroy right now tied for second at RBC, so his game is clearly tightened up and he's going to be ready. Patrick Cantlay's had an incredible year so far. I want to say that, you know, Morikawa and Schauffele and those kinds of guys that are West Coast guys have a slight advantage just because they probably have had access to play out there and have most likely played there more than one time. I don't know that for certain, but you would kind of assume that once you get to be a premier player like that, you're probably taking your opportunities to go play when you're in your, you know, kind of your home state. So, and this is obviously one of them where I'm sure they're familiar with. But the guy that's kind of in the, you know, kind of in an interesting spot here, and the reason why the odds are so high is Max Homa. Max Homa is, you know, I'm pretty sure he still holds the course record there of 61. So he knows this course incredibly well. He's kind of due again to kind of take that spotlight. It seems like every time you don't see Scheffler and Rahm, here comes Max Homa to kind of, you know, kind of bully his way back to the top of the leaderboards and at the top of the golfing world. So, you know, he's a guy, I don't know if the kind of the expectation, knowing that he's had great success on this golf course, is going to get into his head, but something tells me that it's not, and something tells me that he's going to come out and kind of prove that he knows this course, and he's just such a cool guy in general. Like, he just doesn't seem like the guy that pressure can get to him. I'm sure it does on the inside, it does for all of us, but he never really shows it. And you know, I would lean heavily towards, if it's not Morikawa or Scheffler, I would lean towards Max Homa as the true favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting pick here. One other guy I want to get your take on here is, obviously you mentioned, like, obviously the U.S. Opens, you want to have guys who can, like, have good shot control, can really, like, strike the ball very well and put it where they want it to. Like, I feel like this is the kind of event that, like, Jordan Spieth would do well in.
Yeah, it all depends on Jordan's health and how that wrist and hand are feeling. He's had an incredible season, and Jordan Spieth's playing like Jordan Spieth again, and it's great for golf. And you know, you can never count him out. It truly is going to depend whether he can really let it rip when he's taken, you know, off the tee, and how he's feeling kind of in that mid range as well. I would lean a little bit heavier towards the Max Homas right now that have that course experience, because this is another one where, you know, guys that played at the Genesis Invitational had the opportunity to kind of sneak over there and get around in, or kind of do a little bit of scouting report on it. We haven't really been on the West Coast now in a little while. So unless during your off weeks you live out there, I don't know how much access Jordan's had to it. I'm assuming he's at least played it once, but I'm just, if you're asking me, you know, who kind of has a little bit more of an edge just from a knowledge standpoint, I would lean towards of the upper tier players, you know, in kind of the casual golf fan's mind, not necessarily based on fully statistics, but more just on kind of public perception. I would lean a little bit towards the West Coast guys for this one.
Yeah, it makes some sense here. Obviously, I want to talk some sleepers here, because you gave us some good ones at the PGA Championship. You entered Victor Hovland. He was up near the top of the leaderboard for most of the tournament here. Like, what kind of sleepers are you looking for here?
You know, why not Ricky Fowler? You know, we're going to talk about West Coast guys and guys who've had a really good season so far. I mean, I think people are kind of sleeping on the fact that, let's just look at like the last 5 or 6 events for Ricky Fowler so far this season. I mean, he's just had a really sneaky good season. He obviously hasn't had a win yet, but like, he was tied for 10th at Valero, tied for 15th at Heritage, tied for 14th at Wells Fargo. Didn't have the best PGA Championship, played okay, but just missed the cut. And then he was tied for 6th at Charles Schwab and tied for 9th at Memorial. So here's a guy who had been basically in the top 15 now for multiple months. He had a tied for 2nd at the Zozo Championship earlier, you know, way back in October. It was tied for 6th at Fortnite. Like, his game is coming back together. And, you know, you would have to assume, once again, California guy, you know, why not? Let's see Ricky Fowler back up there and kind of have that home crowd behind him. So I'd give him as one. And the other guy is, you know, it's so funny to me because all he does is just put himself in position constantly. And it's Justin Rose. He's just always around. I mean, let's go back to the Players' Championship here. Obviously, he won Pebble Beach earlier this year in February. But, the Players' Championship, he was tied for 6th. He's had a tied for 16th at the Masters, a tied for 9th at the PGA Championship, and he was tied for 12th at Charles Schwab. And right now, he's in 2nd place at RBC Canadian Open. The guy's having a phenomenal year. And if you really look at kind of, the majors themselves, including the Players, I mean, he's basically been T12 or better. So why? I mean, he seems to play big when the spotlight is on. I don't think you can count Rosie out for this one. And when it comes to the parts of his game that he does excel, it's obviously 200 yards and in. So let's give Justin Rose as a sleeper spot. I think you're going to see his name in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I feel like the casual fan disappointed about, and obviously he had a long road here. There's enough change, especially after his magical run at the PGA, that Michael Block couldn't qualify for this tournament. That would have been a lot of fun if he could have gotten in.
And once again, Michael Block is a wonderful story, and it's the reason why I love working for the PGA Tour and in the professional golf industry, because those that play the game, grew up playing the game, have spent special memories out there. It just goes to show you that that's what's so amazing about the PGA Tour and just golf at large. Any person can go out there and kind of go from unknown to the top of the world with one or two really special rounds. And golf is just it gives you the platform to elevate yourself into a new stratosphere. But sometimes it's also a harsh reality. Everybody, I was literally out on the golf course yesterday, and I had one of the best front nines I've had in a long time. I was driving the ball great, and the back nine just came down to a crashing reality of, oh my God, just how difficult this game can be. So a little bit of just showing how great PGA Tour players are, and that you can be consistent no matter whether it's the golf course, a different week. They get out of bed, they get up, they work, they practice, and they prepare. And it just goes to show you that, doing it every single week is incredibly difficult. And, everybody roots for Michael Block and love that story and whatnot. And we'll see what happens again in the future, but we will see him again for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he got an automatic invite to next year's PGA Championship, so we'll see if he can keep the magic going here. But we'll stay on the U.S. Open front here. Now we sort of broke down the field a little bit. Who would you pick to win this tournament if you had to make a call right now?
You always put me on the spot with these. I'm having a head and heart situation here right now. My head is saying stay with Scottie Scheffler. I don't think he's happy with how the last two majors have gone in terms of just purely his expectation for himself. When he gives himself so many opportunities, and he just, we're so used to seeing him just kind of propel himself into the lead, and he just kind of been around the lead. So my head is obviously saying Scheffler for this, just because of how good he is. I mean, he's leading the PGA Tour in approach to green. But my heart wants to say Ricky Fowler. So, because I think this would be an incredible way for him to really bust back out onto the scene and say, I'm still here, and I put in the work this season to get myself back into contention, and all of that hard work is paying off. So, can I get a halvesy on this one? I normally choose one, but I'm going to go with the Scheffler-Fowler combo.
That was certainly a fun option to have both those guys in the mix down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really, really fun to watch, and it's hard to root for one over the other.
Yeah, so Dan, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow on social media. How can they do that?
DMart207, anytime on Twitter. So right. I appreciate it. And once again, we'll have a lot more to talk about in the coming months. And obviously golf has been top of mind for a lot of people right now. And, we hope everybody gets to enjoy and play some golf as the weather gets a little better. I know you guys in the New York area haven't been able to go out with the fog or smog or whatever you want to call it, this air situation, but hopefully everybody's back out now, and look forward to catching up with you for the Open Championship next month.
Sounds good, Dan. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Bye.